One of the biggest blockers I constantly see at companies looking to operationalize AI is how to deal with unstructured data. Take, for example, an industrials company. They have thousands of diagrams, maybe tens of thousands, schematics that define their business. Everything from complex P&ID diagrams to plant and line schematics to construction diagrams of their offices. These PDFs and visual diagrams are the literal lifeblood of industrial organizations, but it's completely untethered from the rest of your enterprise. So how do we actually start to tether all of this information into my IoT, my plant maintenance, my ERP systems, so that we can contextualize it, create that unified namespace? That's through ontologizing these documents, and let me show you how we do that. All right, so how do we do this? If we actually click over here on components, we're going to select all the components we've identified. So you can see we highlight on this diagram all the different things AIP has identified for us. If we actually click in here and we can see more detailed diagram, you can see it really finds the nitty-gritty small stuff on this detailed diagram. Very cool. Now, if I actually click on one of these, we can dive into this actual component. So it identified this small little component, V84 with the symbol right there. And this is a valve. And this valve was installed in 1989. The last maintenance was on Jan 23 of 24, and it has maintenance every 6 months. Pretty cool that through that unstructured data, I'm able to tie that into the structured data of my business, my plant maintenance systems. This is that unified namespace. You can also see from a logic standpoint, the actual way we reasoned about this, the shape of it, the label, where it was, the contextualization of this diagram is how we start to tie this into our business. So let's go back to the overview schematic here, and we're going to hit on edit. So this is going to show you some of the flow about how we get to this point and what this looks like. So in the overview tab here, you can see when I selected all of the items, I now have some things that are green and some that are yellow. The yellows are things that I have a partial match on, but I might need some human feedback on. So if we actually zoom in on this one, for example, you can see this has a partial match. It's not quite sure. Now the label says WLTK598. Now if we look at the one next to it, it's 59A. So it looks like this diagram, based on kind of the printing and the text here, it is pretty confusing on whether it's an 8 or a B. So it's easy enough for me to come in here and hit edit, and I can actually just go hit B and hit edit tag, and that will then correct it. That also gives the feedback to the AI, so the next time it's going to identify 8s and Bs might be similar. That's going to help me be better about fuzzy matching these things automatically. This is pretty slick, right? So now we understand how we can manage tags, add, edit, but how do we even get to this auto-segmented diagram? Let's back up one more step and look at this document. And how do we ontologize it? If we actually look at the PDF here, we're going to select just a subset of items here and examine the ontology. This will help you understand what it means to ontologize and create a unified namespace. In the center of this, I actually have the PDF we were just looking at. That's the starting point. So you can see here, there it is. Each one of these segments that we have are components that we're able to segment out and tie back to. For example, this ties back to an element for the WLEV4, a waste evaporator. You can see all the information here on the left, including an image of that's tagged back to this waste evaporator right here. This is my actual ERP tag for my plant maintenance, my MES, my IoT data, whatever that is. It's tying back to my enterprise systems. In this example, this is just a subset of things that I had selected. So if you want to see the complexity of what this means to ontologize here, now imagine if we do the whole document, not just the sub-select. So if we go back and actually select the whole thing, we'll look at the knowledge graph of this entire document, unstructured data. So let's take a look at that. Wow, okay, this is pretty cool. Imagine the complexities of trying to do all this manually. Just one simple PDF. Now consider this a little bit more sophisticated, where there's more scenarios where they're tying across different PDFs back to multiple different ERP systems across tens or hundreds or thousands. This knowledge graph gets much more complicated. So you need tools like AIP to be able to create that unified namespace. This is one of the bases of industry AI. So this is our data lineage tool. This is going to show all the flow, all the way over from the application over here on the right that we were actually just looking at, to the ontology object that it's built upon, and then how the data actually got there. So let's start over here on the left about how we ingested this. We'll turn off the flow and we'll take a look at the preview of the schematic. So this is a media set. In Foundry, the media set allows you to work with unstructured data inside of your pipeline. So a PDF, an image, a video, whatever it is, you can load these in or even reference an S3 bucket virtually, or whatever blob store you're using. Then we also have an example here for context, a legend of the signs and symbols. So now as the LM's reason across the different pieces and parts of these PDFs, it understands the context of what they might mean. All right, then this is pretty cool. We actually are meshing together many different techniques here. So we have a segment anything model, anywhere model from Meta that's going to actually segment out and help us piece and part out the different important pieces of the actual PDF. So we've got mixed mode here. It's just pretty slick. So if we click here, you can see that we actually segment out all the different pieces and parts and highlighted what those actually mean across that PDF. Then if we tie that back together here at the bottom, we actually see our P&ID components. So this might be structured data coming from your plant maintenance, your MES, ERP, whatever that is. Now, all that comes together when I tie together with AIP Logic, our LM-backed agent tool. So this AIP Logic is going to be able to look across all the different segments, my business ontology about the structured data, about what these mean. It's going to look at the legend for the context, put all together, and actually then hydrate the ontology objects that then we saw in the application. All right, so if we go all the way back up, now we've ontologized, we created that unified namespace, we tied this unstructured data into our enterprise. Like, what do we do with it as value add? So you can see here, this is our P&ID alert inbox. This is one example about how I have the schematic we just looked at, and I actually can tie into sensor data coming from that actual unit in our facility, also alerts related to it over time. So now I get a lot of rich information in one place. This is super valuable. I also can then look at my alert inbox, prioritize on things like high flow alerts only, and I want to just do the high priority pieces. Right, so this gives me a way to focus on the most important thing because I've ontologized all those relationships. I can also chat with that, ask questions as well. And then I also have control over alerts. So as I'm learning and doing things, I can also generate my own alerts based on the data of our IoT data coming in. So I can have sensor data coming in when there's certain flow rates, how they might tie together across these different components. I can create these complex alerts in here. All right, I hope you enjoyed it today. Want to highlight a few things. Everything I show you today is actually available on our AIP Now showcase. You can go take a look at the application that we went through today, find some more details, or request access. One of our team members will reach out to you. So AIP.palantir.com, go take a look at this use case. Also, our industry AI base plate built on top of that unified namespace. So again, that's how we ontologize that unstructured data, tie it together. Now we build value-added applications on top of it. Preventive maintenance, component alerting, design assurance, all of that on top of that unified namespace. All right, one last thing. Build with AIP, build.palantir.com. You can hit sign up. You get your own instance of AIP. You can build out with these different starter packs and use cases, play around, get familiar. So that stuff I showed you in our data lineage and our pipeline, you can do that yourself. So sign up, try it out today.